Good morning, loved ones. I'm Love, and I'm coming to you before I'm actually heading out to work. I want to talk to you briefly about this false sense of not being employable. A lot of my sisters, I've watched several YouTube videos. I watch a lot. I'm a YouTube junkie. Before I started this channel, I was always watching videos, but I came across some videos this weekend, and a lot of them echoed the same sentiment. A lot of my trans sisters are under the impression that we're not employable, and that is so far from the truth. If you are transitioning now, if you already have transitioned and you're not working, please do not feed into this false sense and this stereotypical attitude and mindset of not being able to be employed. Because I'm working, and I know a lot of girls who are working at this time. Some are just beginning their transition. Some have already transitioned, but they're gainfully employed. Do not have this false sense of, because you're trans, because you're tranny, or what have you, that people will not hire you. What I had to realize and understand is that you have to become acquainted with rejection before success. Plain and simple. You're gonna face a lot of no's. You're gonna have a lot of no's before you have that one yes. And that's all you need. That's all you need, is that one yes to let you into the door. But you have to be acquainted with rejection. Like, you have to get out there and try. Again, I have to go back to my previous video. What are you doing differently to have a different result? You know, we can't do the same things all the time and think that we're going to have a different result. You have to do something different to have a better result. For me, and I can only tell you what I've been through and my walk and my struggle. I had a previous job before I moved to this new city. Was working there all through my undergrad. And I graduated, and I was at that same job making little to no money, but I was complacent and I was scared. Complacent and scared. Scared of change, scared to try something new. I was complacent because the people who I was employed with and working for, they already knew my deal. I had transitioned at that job. And that was another point that one of the videos made, was that girls who are working and who are able to be employed have transitioned at their job, and it's easier for them, mind you. And I just have to take a moment out to thank my boss then. I was working in dispatch, and his name was Floyd Webb, and I just want to thank you from the bottom of my heart. This is my situation. I was going to Black Beach this particular year, meeting my sisters there, and I had gotten my hair done. It was fly. It was a little tapered bob, and it was a little fire engine red at the front with the little bangs. So I had went to Black Beach, and I was on my way home, and I was like, oh my God, I'm not taking my hair out. Like, I'm not taking my hair out. Like, I'm not doing that. Like, so I had gotten up the courage then on that drive back to be like, I'm going to start my transition. I am going to start. This is going to be the time that I start. So I walked in to work on that Monday, and with my hair still done and looking cute. And of course, my coworkers were taken aback. They had already known that I had got up in, but I'm sure they were not expecting me to come to work like I did. So I was going about my day, dispatching it, what have you, and my boss called me into the office. I I was taken aback. I was scared. I didn't know what was going to happen because I had heard of girls being let go from their jobs because they were who they were, and because transgender women don't have a lot of rights in society, and a lot of laws that cis men and women have to protect them in their job. But this was a while ago. This was some years ago. A long time ago. So we did not have as much coverage, or we were not in the media as we are now today. So this was a while ago. So he had caught me into his office, and of course my palms were sweating. So, and I thank him to this day, because what he had told me was that, okay, I see you, and I know what's going on. And ultimately he had told me that this work environment was going to be safe, a safe place for me. And if I had any trouble from anybody, I was to come to him so that he could handle it. And when I tell you, Floyd Webb, I am never going to forget you for that, because that to me said, okay, you can be you, and it's okay. It's okay. Like, you're going to have people who are not going to like what you're doing, but you are going to have those allies that's going to be right there by you to help protect you from the wolves and the venomous snakes, you know? But he did allow me to transition at the workplace with not a one headache, and not a one like obscene gesture, obscene like disparity. Like I had a wonderful working environment. So I was one of those girls who was able to transition. But when it came time enough for me to know that, okay, this is not where I want to retire, this is not my be all in all, I had to start making some changes and getting myself marketable. Mind you, I had already graduated and had a degree, and I was not working or using my degree. My grandmother had died, and I had made a promise to myself that this year was going to be the year. This was after my transition, mind you, at that same job. But I had made a promise to myself that I was not going to be complacent at this job. I was going to look for a job. If I had to use my degree, if I had to get certification, I was going to find another place of employment that was going to pay me what I was worth. You know, it's one thing to be accepted. That's all fine and well. But when you know your value, that's another thing. That's another thing. You have to get paid for your worth. So what happened was, I had graduated and earned my degree, but I got certified in my field. And so I started, because I didn't major in education, I had wanted to segue into education by substituting. So that's what I had done. I had gotten my certification for my degree so that I can be able to teach that. But to segue into that field, I had gotten certified to be a sub. So I had started looking out and reaching out. And in my town, because a lot of people graduate and don't move, a lot of the teachers were subbing. So it was hard for me to get my foot in that town. So what I had to do was reach out further. But previous to that, I had to give you this story of rejection. I lived in a town where state employment was rampant. If you were not working for a hotel, because it was a college town, you were working for people working for the state, they were working for the hospitals. But I kept trying to get in. I would get the interview. I would pass, you have to do the application with some little questions or what have you. But I would get into the interview and do well in the interview. I would get past the interview and I wouldn't hear anything else. And to me, because I was not as far, I was in probably mid-transition, I guess. And I thought that that was keeping me at bay. I thought that because people were knowing my tea, that they didn't want me in their environment. And that could have been it. But I said that to say, you have to be acquainted with rejection before you'll have success. You have to be acquainted with hearing no, saying no, getting that letter in the mail saying, no, this is not the place for you. You know, you have to be acquainted with that. And you have to be able to, I think in our walk as transgendered women, we have a thick skin already. So get out there and keep interviewing, keep going out for these jobs, because with all those no's, you're going to hear yes. You are. Trust me, you are. I have another story for you. When I had figured out, okay, well, this town is not giving me my life in reference to being employed, so let me cast my net out further. So I had we lived near a major city, and I was like, okay, well, let me apply for a job in that county. So I did, and I had an interview. Mind you, on the interview, me and my boyfriend had driven 2 hours to the neighboring city, much bigger. It's a metropolis. It's actually where I am now. So we had driven all that way, and when I got to the interview and was parking, I had noticed that I didn't have my dress shoes. I had some fuzzy slippers I used to wear around the house. They were black. And I was so like, oh my God, like, what am I gonna do? What am I gonna do? I was flustered. I was embarrassed. But my boyfriend, at that time, he had said, look, it is what it is. You don't have the shoes that you would normally wear in this occasion, but we've driven all this way. You've driven all this way. What's the worst they're gonna do? So he had to like give me a pep talk, because I was like, no, I'm not going in there like this. I'm not going in there like this. But eventually I did, and I did well in the interview, but I didn't get the job, and that's fine, because there was another agency that allowed me to, of course I had to do another application, but allowed me to be a substitute. So I moved to my city where I am now, being a sub. I was substituting in the county, and I loved it. But I discovered that it wasn't paying my bills. It wasn't paying my bills at all. So I reached out, filling out another application, and I finally landed the job that I'm in today. But I said that to say that just try something different. And it's okay if you have a no. It's okay if you receive a no. But just know that one of those times, on one of those interviews, they're gonna say yes. And that's gonna be your gold mine. You know, you have to start somewhere. I know a lot of girls, my sisters that I know, they're working in restaurants, they're working at beauty counters. I have a sister now that wants to transition out of the work life. And I asked her, like, what do you love doing? She loves animals. So that could be one role that she can take. She's also a good interior designer. I told her too, like, she should start getting a portfolio of things that she's done together. Put it on Facebook. Get herself out there. Even get a YouTube channel so people can see what she does. So that one day she can getting a booking for that. You know, like, there's something that we all love doing. And I'm not doing what I love. I'm not working at what I love, but I love what I'm doing, you know? But if you can't get to where you want to be, start somewhere so that you can get that marketability, that training under your belt, so that you can have something to put on your resume, excuse me. This is where I started. I worked here for so on and so forth. And that's what happened to me. I spent many years dispatching, and that gave me because I'm already a good talker, that gave me something to have on my resume, along with other jobs that I've had, saying that, okay, well, she's marketable beyond being a trans woman. And I know, like, every time I go on an interview now, which I don't interview now, but the interview that I went on to get this job here, they were not familiar with me being transgendered in the interview, because I see that because when I was already working in the job, I was called downstairs. I was like, oh my gosh, what's going on? I was called downstairs to the Human Resources Department. I was like, oh my gosh, child, they finna escort me out of the building. But I had sat with the VP and the person that was over the Human Resources Department at that time. And they had said, okay, we looked at your background check and we noticed that your name was different from what it is now. And I was like, yeah. So they're like, okay, there's no caution, there's no need for caution. You don't have to be scared. But what we're asking you is so that you can be comfortable. We have a restroom downstairs that's for everyone to use. It was a unisex restroom. Which restroom, excuse me, did you feel comfortable using? And back then, I wasn't taken aback. I was just grateful that, for one, I wasn't getting fired, and for two, they had the sensibility to make me comfortable at my place of employment. So they had ultimately said that, yeah, if you go ahead and use whichever one you're comfortable with. And I told them that I'm a woman. I feel good and comfortable going into the ladies' restroom. But they said that if I ever wanted to use the unisex one downstairs, that would be fine. And also, they assured me that they have a no harassment policy, no tolerance for harassment. And if I ever had any trouble, just to let them know. So that made me feel comfortable as well. But yeah, I said that to say that don't let you being transgendered put you in the mindset of you're not employable. Don't let what you hear from other trans women put you in the mindset of you not being employable. Get your skills together so that you can be marketable. Mind you, there are girls that are working that don't have a degree. You don't need a degree to be employable. All you need to have is the gumption, for lack of a better term, the will, and the thick skin to accept a no. And just remember that, again, as long as you're out there trying and putting your best face forward, you're going to have a yes. You're going to have a yes. And you can take that yes, and I don't want to say throw it in the face of that, and throw it in the face of that adversity. Not the girls, but throw it in the face of that adversity and said, yeah, hey, I did that. Bitch, I'm getting a check. You know? Be acquainted with rejection. You have to be acquainted with rejection before you have that success. All right, loved ones. Know that you're loved. Know that you're loved.